Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So for this video we're gonna look at paper 1, May-June 2024, the second variant. Okay, so this is a short answer and data response paper, so you wouldn't be having an insert booklet for the case study, and there will be 4 short separate case studies. Okay, so 1 for each question. All right, let's go through. We'll start with question number 1 and 2 for this video, and then we're gonna continue for part 2 with questions 3 and 4. And I will be uploading the part 2 of the previous paper soon as well. Okay, so for the first question, we have this case study of Nikki's business. So Nikki wants to be a successful entrepreneur. She plans to start up a travel business specializing in walking holidays. Nikki will be operating in a niche market. She is preparing a business plan to help her with decision making. Nikki has been told government support is available for business startups, and she knows building customer relationships will be important. All right. So there's a lot of keywords here. There's a lot of things that you should be aware of. And obviously there's a lot of applications as well. So we'll guess that there's a lot of definitions, I suppose, that you need to know. Okay. Alright. So for part A of this question, so it's not a definition question. It is a, you can say more of an identification question. So this should be easy. And also there's a lot of possible answers for this question, but for these I chose. So the question is, identify 2 reasons why a government might support business startups. So I believe the first 2 answers that would come to mind is to reduce unemployment rates or to increase the GDP of the country. You can also talk about to benefit society, or you can answer to gain more taxes or revenue for the country, or you can also talk about competition, like increase competition, you know what I mean. And other things could include like bringing new ideas, being creative, blah blah blah. And then there's more. So this question does not have like a fixed number of answers. There's more. So whatever appropriate and logical answer you put there is acceptable. No worries. So you'll get a mark for each reason you give. And of course, there's no application in this question. Okay, second question is also a 2-mark question, and it's also an identification question, and again there's no application. So you have to identify 2 ways a business can build customer relationships. Okay, again, this is also quite easy, and you have unlimited answers to put. But for me, I chose that to have a good quality service. You can also put products as well if you do not want to put service. You can talk about providing special offers like discounts to regular customers. Okay, this can also encourage customer loyalty. You can also talk about the brand image, market research, responding to complaints, or like things like offering refund, adding extra service to your business like delivery service or after sales service. Things like that are acceptable, and there's many more. All right, so part C of the question, you have to outline 1 benefit and 1 limitation to Nikki's business of operating in a niche market. Okay, so there's again 1 for each. So what, of course, your mark allocation will be 2 marks each. Okay, so how are you gonna gain your marks? All right, so you'll gain a mark for the knowledge, and then another one for your application. Okay. All right. So, okay, so there's a lot of answers for this one as well, but I believe, I mean, if you were in the exam, you wouldn't really have that much to think of. But let's go with the obvious. So, as a benefit of niche market, I believe this is in your textbook. You should know this by heart. Um, there is less competition when you're in a niche market, okay? So, this is the answer. So you can say which benefits her. By her, I mean Nikki, her startup business. So here is our application, the term startup business, and why? Because it's here. I believe I saw it somewhere. Yes, here. Yep. Okay, and this is your answer, your like main answer, which is the benefit. Okay, your limitation. Okay, a limitation of niche market is that your sales and target market is gonna be in fact limited, because you're normally targeting a small number of people or a specific group, so it's not gonna be a wide and not a wide market. Okay, so okay, so for this one, okay, so sales and target market will be limited. Okay, for this one, the answer is limited sales, but the application is that Nikki, this entrepreneur, um, is small. Okay, so they're targeting a small market. So how I did this is that I mentioned her name here, so this is how I got the application. So what I mean is that Nikki, this entrepreneur's sales and target market will be limited. Okay, so this will get me 2 marks. However, I would recommend you to make it more uh, clear. But you can say that she will have limited sales, uh, is small for this, and because she's in a smaller target market. Okay. You can also talk about she will also be relying on maybe one service or one product, but in this case it's a service. So again, her scope is quite narrow, but I guess it's pretty similar. So it's best if to just mention about sales or revenue or customers. Okay, so this is it for this question. Next, we'll be moving on to the 6 mark questions. We have 2 of them. Okay, so part D, you have to explain one way each of the following sections in the business plan might be helpful to Nikki. Okay, this is also in your textbook. I believe you have a chapter or a subchapter about this. I'm not so sure, I kind of forgot. But I believe you guys should have read this and studied this within your syllabus. Okay, again, there is a more this is the thing about paper 1, is that you are awarded or credited for any appropriate response you have. So your answer options are I wouldn't say unlimited, but also not as narrow as paper 2. So I believe that this paper is way more easier for you guys. So you should be able to focus. Please focus, and you'll be able to score high for your paper, hopefully, for your upcoming exams. Okay, so part D, of course, we also have to apply here. It's a 6-mark question. Okay, so first we have the business objectives, okay, which is the main thing in a business plan. And then you have the data about the market. So what are business objectives? Okay, so they usually they are the goals of the business, or what the business hopes to achieve or do. but they act as initially as serving as a sense of direction or act as a target for the business. Okay, so for the explanation, this will help Nikki's travel business to monitor their progress. Okay, so in here, the application is the one we mentioned here, Nikki's travel business. So this will automatically give you 1 mark. And then this is our second mark here. And of course, this one is 1 mark. This one is 1 mark as well. Okay, as simple as that. So for the data about the market, well, this could show many things, but I believe the most obvious would be showing the size of the market. Or you can also write information about the target market. And in this case, by the way, the target market is an application when you mention the target market, because like I said here, it's here. Okay, and it's also mentioned, I believe, or not, I'm not sure, but they would say it is an application, because again, she is doing pursuing her business in a niche market, so I believe that should be an application. But anyways, let's just move on. What else can you talk about? You can also mention information about competition, like competitors, or you can say it will help you set prices, help a business person set their prices, and blah blah blah. There's many more you can write, but for now I choose to talk about this one, showing the size of the market. Okay, for the explanation, how will this help Nikki's business? This helped Nikki's business assess the level of demand in their niche market. Okay, here niche market is the application, and then whatever is written is the answer, so you should be able to score 2 marks. All right, okay. Part E, I believe the most difficult part of each question in this paper, because of your justification and the way that you have to arrange your ideas. Okay, so what I've noticed for 2024 especially, the papers have changed, or the format changed a little bit, and also the justification style has changed a lot. Okay, so you might find this different from my previous videos, but I believe it's not that hard to know which style you're gonna use. Okay, for this one you will be discussing two things, and then you'll choose which one is the most or likely to be better. But when you justify, I believe it's shorter than usual, but let's see how we can go through this one. Okay, so for people who would ask, is there a more suitable answer? Like if I were to give any sort of characteristic, like here in this question, it's asking explain 2 characteristics of a successful entrepreneur. Which characteristic is likely to be the most important, and justify your answer. Okay, so there's a lot of characteristics of entrepreneurs, and of course for me, if I were to answer this paper, the first one that comes to mind is being creative and a risk taker. But there's also perseverance, there's effective communicator, there's being good at decision making, hardworking, independent, innovative, which is kind of like creative, but it's more of like being able to put ideas into practice, not just bringing ideas to the business. Being multi-skilled, being self-confident, being optimistic. Okay, and the list goes on. Okay, so you just have to choose 2. Okay, and how are you gonna talk about them? First, you're gonna give your explanation of each, and then when it comes to the justification, you will talk more about why this is more important than that. Okay, so you're not you're in this justification type, you're not gonna go against your first argument like the previous papers I've shown you guys. For this question, no, you have to follow just simple justification style. Okay, so first you'll have to say well, I choose to write it this way. You can find a different introduction or a small, like, one sentence introduction. It's up to you, but I wrote that I believe that two of the most prominent characters are being creative. Okay, so this is my first answer. And being creative by having new ideas. Okay, so this is my explanation that makes the business stands out from its competitors, which help gain sales. Okay, so this is my first answer here. So you will gain 1 mark for the character you mentioned, and then another one for the explanation of that character. Okay. But for this case, since I mentioned that having new ideas, blah blah blah, stand out, so this is 1 mark. And then help, I think help gain sales should be a mark by itself. So here I think I have about 3 marks. Okay. And then next is being a risk taker. So I will have 1 mark here for my second characteristic that I chose, and then an explanation why should a entrepreneur would want to be a risk taker, since in businesses, when you investments can be lost, but when you're a risk taker, it will affect you less, I suppose, since when you are taking a risk, you already know that the possibility of this. Okay, so this is the explanation, or the answer, we can say. So this one is another mark. Now for the justification, and for also when I'm gonna be choosing which one is most likely to be more important. So the characteristics, sorry, I have not wrote it all. Okay, that would be more important is would be risk taking. Okay, so this is my choice. Okay, you can choose the other one, but for me, I think this was more important, because if they do not take risks, by they I mean the entrepreneurs, they could miss out on opportunities to make sales, and could never know if their ideas, which is here I'm actually argumenting creativity, could be successful or not. So being creative is not enough. When you're creative, you need to try out your creative ideas, which is also in this case more like innovation. You have to be innovative as well in order for you to accomplish your goal. Okay. All right, so this is it for this question. Next question would be question number 2. Okay, here we have judging from the numbers, we will have calculations. Okay, let's read the case study first, and then we'll look into the question more. Okay, so GTB is a business which operates in the tertiary. All right, this is a keyword here, tertiary sector. It owns 5 cafes selling food and drinks. Okay, this is more information. The business uses social media as its method of promotion. The finance manager, Moen, is analyzing GTB's financial statements. An extract is shown in table 2.1. He is considering ways to improve GTB's profit margin. Moen knows there are other users that are interested in the accounts of a business. Okay, so for the table of the financial statement, we have the revenue, of course, we have the profit, we have the capital employed, cost here, and your profit margin. Okay, so define a tertiary sector. All right. Okay, so I don't think there's many ways for you to write this, but this is the most you can follow your textbook and the glossary. I think that should be suitable, but there isn't many ways really to write this. So it is any business that provides services to the customers or other sectors or businesses of the industry, or maybe you can just write like how I wrote here, firms that provide services to customers and other businesses, which is simpler, and you will also gain 2 marks. Okay, let's say you wrote businesses that provide services, you will only get 1 mark. Or you only wrote service sector businesses, you will also get 1 mark only. They have to be together. Okay, you have to mention that it provides services, and the other part is to customers and other businesses. So there's 2 parts. This is the first one of the definition, and this is the second one. So each is a mark, and together they are 2. All right, this should be simple. Okay, part B is you have to calculate the return on capital employed. Show your working. All right. Okay, if you do have your mark scheme with you while you're answering, you could see that the question clearly asks you to show your working, but if you manage to only have the final answer, okay, which is 20%, you are still getting the full marks. Okay, but why am I asked to show my working if it really does not matter that much? Okay, what matters is that, let us say you did not manage to get this final number correctly. Okay, maybe something happened in the calculation part on your end. Maybe you did something wrong when you're using your calculator or something like that. So why you have to show this, okay? I personally prefer if you wrote it in like this, like you have to write the formula, profit over capital employed, and then which is multiplied by 100, so that the examiner can see it. Or I believe it's not an examiner in this case, maybe it could be a computer, I don't know, but it should be clear what you're mentioning here. The formula should be correct. So even if your numbers here, maybe you did something wrong, which could happen to most people actually, so they will give you 1 mark for the formula. And I think this is common sense, because in your math exams and physics and all those other subjects that require numbers, this is the case for most of the mark allocation. Okay, so make sure you have both, but again, if you only had this and this was correct, you'll still get 2 marks. Okay. All right, for the calculation, the numbers, I took them from this. It's obvious here. So you take your profit, and then you divide it by the capital employed, and then times 100. Okay. Next is part C, 4 question mark, and it is an application one. Okay, so outline 2 ways GTB could improve its profit margin. Way 1, you increase the price of the food. Okay, increasing the price of the food. So increasing the price is the way, okay, which will get you 1 mark. And then off the food is the application. Why? Because here it sells food and drinks. This is an application, okay? Next way to improve the profit margin, you can say we control the fixed costs. Okay, fixed cost is any sort of expenses that a business let's say pays, and which is fixed, meaning maybe every month, every week. For example, rent is one of the fixed costs a business that pays. So maybe you can say controlling the fixed costs, such as maybe lowering the rents of the cafes. Okay, it's cafes here is the application, 1 mark, and lowering or controlling is the answer. Okay, 1 mark. All right. Other things you can talk about is maybe lowering the variable costs as well. Or maybe you can give an example like I did here, such as blah blah blah. Wait, let me just clarify this. This is an example. Lowering rent is an example. Okay, so let's say you wrote this one only but not this. You will still get 2 marks because this is an application. It doesn't matter. But you can write one of these, like controlling fixed costs or lowering rent, because lowering rent is an example of this. So it will give you a mark. Okay. Part D. Explain 2 advantages to GDP of using social media as its method of promotion. Okay. There we have a couple of advantages, and you are awarded any a proper answer. Okay, for this question you are required to apply in order for you to get your full marks, and the advantages must be to the business. Okay, do not not to the customer. Okay, because sometimes some students might mistaken not mistaken, but you might get carried away and actually write advantages to the customers, not to the business. So please focus on that. Okay, applications for these questions could be you can mention cafe, you can mention selling foods or drinks, you can mention the 5 branches, you can mention any of the here the statement in the financial statements, like any of them, the revenue, the profit. Like by mentioning them, I mean actually putting the exact numbers. That is also an application. What else? Improving profit margin, which is also stated in the case study. Tertiary sector, and I think those are all of them that you can put. Okay, so the first advantage that I think is I chose is targeting a specific group of customers, which okay, so here targeting which means basically the niche market. Okay, so when you advertise using social media, you can easily choose who your audience are. And for not Nikki, sorry, GTB here. Well, sorry. I think I got mistaken. I got carried away. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, so this is not a niche market. My brain was still with the previous question. Okay, so please forget about the niche market. We're talking about GTB now, okay? So targeting a specific group of customers. All right. What other things you can talk about? You can also talk about the opposite of this, which is covering a wide area, meaning advertising to many people, like more than one group, not just one group. So these 2 are both advantages. You can talk about updating quickly. You can say that social media can reach people that are difficult to reach, meaning maybe they can reach even people from outside of the country. You can also say that it's acceptable. And yeah, and also this is the low cost. This one, the one that I chose. Okay, so here 1 mark, and here also we have 1 mark. Okay, so for your explanation, this is where you apply. Okay, why targeting a specific group is an advantage. Okay, this will help encourage brand loyalty. Okay, so these specific groups of people, they know that they're being targeted, and this will make them loyal to to this brand. Okay, and as an application, I choose to apply this, the 5 locations. Okay, so this is 1 mark and this is 1 mark, so total 3 marks. Okay, advantage number 2, low costs. Okay, many people could argue that it could be expensive. Sometimes yes, social media could be expensive, especially if it's a sponsored advert. But if it's like, if you're like maybe putting just hashtags, or maybe if GTB's business, like their profile on social media, it could be going viral. So maybe this is where low cost comes in. But if they were to make something like specific just for them, something creative, and again it's a sponsored advert, then yes, it could be expensive. But for this one, I believe low cost is an advantage for GTB. Okay, so this helps lower the expenses. Okay, why it's helpful for GTB? This is the answer, which could improve. This is the application. Okay, and then this is your answer, which is 1 mark and 1 mark, and then total 3 marks. Okay, I think so far that these questions A, B, C, D are pretty easy. Your only challenge is E for all questions. I believe. But sometimes, like I said here, for like maybe part B could be tricky with the numbers. You might accidentally put in a wrong number, or maybe you saw it wrongly, or maybe you've mistaken something while calculating. So be careful with that. But other than that, I believe you're good to go. Just always remember your application, and like it always helps for you to underline. And also, do not get carried away like I do sometimes. I get confused with paper 1 because each case study is different. So make sure that you know that you've moved on to another case study, you're not in the previous one like I was doing right now. Okay, and okay, let's look at this one now. Okay, part E. Do you think banks are the main external users of accounts of a business? Justify your answers. Okay, what does this mean? Okay, this question is tricky, like so tricky, unlike the previous one. Okay, so why is a business bank sometimes forced to be public bank accounts, like forced to be publicly displayed? Okay, there's so many reasons, and there are many external users to a business account. Okay, of course you have the bank, you have suppliers, you have the government. Okay, there's more answers, but these 3 are the most known. Okay, first, what you would talk about why banks use the accounts. First, this is what you should do. And then second, you have to mention another external user. Okay, or maybe you can mention 2 more. It's up to you, but since judging from the marks, it's only 6, so I believe you should only mention 1 and make it short, like 1 answer response, in order for you to limit your answer and stick to the mark allocation. Okay, so maybe you can make your original answer about the bank 4 marks, and then a mark for maybe the second one. Like for here, I chose suppliers here as my second user, and then you can for the justification, maybe you can leave it at 1 mark, but I suggest the justification should always be 2. That's more safe for you. So for the bank, you could do 3 marks, and then like I said here, 1 mark for this one. So 3. Okay, so 4 for your main answer, and then 2 for the justification. Okay, so let's look at this here. So why banks use the accounts of a business? Banks are one of the external users of business accounts as they request to see the capacity of a business to repay. Okay, this is most likely always going to be your answer, okay, for whether it's for bank or suppliers or trade payables or government or blah blah blah. They're all the same, okay? This is the main reason why they would check your accounts. Okay, another reason to repay for the bank case, to repay a loan that they would give the business. Also, they would use the account to help decide on the interest rate to reflect the level of risk. Okay, so each business would have a different interest rate actually, and it all depends on their account. Okay, on the other hand, okay, so here I have managed to get 3 marks actually. I have one here to repay loan, and then decide on interest rate to set, and then this is another one. Okay, so 1 mark here, 1 more here, and 1 here. Okay, the first one, this one, it could be actually broken down to 2, but I wrote it in a style that makes it just 1 mark. Okay, just to narrow it down for you guys. But if it's a 2 mark question, you can write whether to give a bank a loan, or whether for the bank to give a loan to see if a business can repay this loan. Okay, but for me here, I kind of arranged it like here, like this one. I think I showed you in the previous question, you know, like in a tricky, unclear way. So I believe if the examiners were to see my paper, they'd probably just give me 1 mark for this one. Okay, but here I kind of like gave an answer and then gave an evaluation for it, or an explanation. Okay, so another 1 mark is when I mentioned the suppliers. On the other hand, there are other external users such as suppliers, okay, who would want to know the liquidity position of the business, okay, of a business or of the business. Okay, what else? Let's see. Okay, moving on to the justification. Nevertheless, okay, banks are likely to be the main, okay, ones, as they often lend large sums of money. Okay, this is 1 mark. On the other hand, sorry, here. Whereas suppliers may be less interested in the accounts if the orders are small. 1 more mark. Okay. I think that's it for this question. I hope this is clear. I tried to make it as clear as possible, but this question is actually very, very tricky. Just always remember when you're justifying that if there's more than one thing that you're going to talk about, just make sure to argument against that, the thing that you have not chosen. For example, here is the supplier, but in some cases you actually have to argument against your own main point, which is, I would say, quite tricky. And it like I said, for the 2024 papers, you're not gonna be using that a lot, but just remember to arrange your answers accordingly, and the marks could vary, and make sure that you could at least secure your marks. Like here, for me here, it is a 6 mark question, but I could get more than 6 for here, this one. They're requesting to see the capacity here, because I kind of did more than I should have. It's not a bad thing, but it's also not a very good thing sometimes, but it could be a safer option for you when you're writing, okay, in order for you to get the full marks. All right, I think that is it for this part. Stay tuned for part 2 for questions 3 and 4. Okay. Thank you.